Hello, folks of the internet. This is Jay here. I This is my first video for a new channel. My other channel on YouTube. Um, it was under the channel's called Uneasy Vlogger, and what I did is I would there was a little bit of a what we called ranting a ride, where I kind of ranted about either politics or this or that, and at the same time show you my ride to work through Princeton and other parts, other neighborhoods here in Florida, in South Florida, the greater Miami area. But this channel I'm launching here is basically, and by the time you see this video, if anybody sees this video, I would have, I'll be retired. Um, this video is to show you or um, tell you about uh, life in public transportation, transit. I have 38 years in the business, or I started as a bus operator. Then I've been a transit operations supervisor. I've been a rowing patrol unit. I've been a lot manager, which takes care of bus assignments. I've worked several dispatch shifts. And for the last 15 years or so, maybe a little longer, I've been lead um, um, transit operations supervisor. My responsibilities mostly the streets, the goings on the streets, the street units. Lead does not mean I'm a supervisor of supervisors. It just means that you act as a lead, or where people can feed off your experience to make correct decisions, or to how would I say it, to develop uh, supervisory techniques. I started as a bus operator, has just turned 20 years old. It's back in 1984. So yes, I'm 58 years old now as of this recording. I Before that, I was a high school dropout. I went to, oh, excuse me, take my GED test, which I passed it without having to go to night school or anything like that. I was an honor student when I dropped out, but that's another story, and for another channel is way too complicated. I did my only other job has been for almost 2 years. It was driving a catering truck for Marriott in-flight services. Yeah, I drove the truck from the kitchen to Miami International Airport, and we catered um, the airliners, and we catered to take the stuff out when they come in. It's maybe for another episode. It was a pretty interesting job. I really liked it. When I was growing up, I always said I'm going to be one of three or four things. I wanted to be either a professional wrestler, a bus operator, a train engineer, or an airline pilot. Became a bus operator. And I thank God. I love my career. For 38 years, I worked at my hobby. You see behind me, you see all my bus models, all my bus paraphernalia, and stuff like that. I uh, I loved it, and it was a tremendous experience dealing with people, dealing with situations, where decisions had to be made um ad hoc, how I might say it. It just, you never know how your job or how your day was going to go. It was very unpredictable, and as they, one supervisor that trained me as a supervisor told me, he said, your job is going to go from being a bus operator, which is 80% skills, he said, 10% public relations, and a little bit of decision making, whether to proceed through yellow light, whether to stop, whether to slow down to be on time at my next time point, or, but it was basically, it was laid out for you. You had your schedule, you had your route map. That's what you did. I prided myself on it. I was a smooth operator, like the song says. I always liked the compliments from my passengers about my braking abilities, and I credit all that to my training. But we're getting a little bit off the subject here. I did not become a professional wrestler because although I thought I could do the wrestling moves, that's what we used to do when we were kids and all that. We all knew, what the wrestling business was, and it was very entertaining. And I thought I could entertain people that way. I'm 5'11". I'm 300 pounds now. Back then I was, what, 5'11", 200 pounds. I might have been able to go into business, but the fact of me touching sweaty men, uh-uh, I couldn't deal with that. One thing is to watch it, enjoy it. Another thing is to perform it. I have a high tolerance to pain. So I have to say, okay, those guys endure. They sacrifice their bodies to keep us entertained, and I think that part of it I can deal with it. But I don't like touching people. Period. And sweaty men. So that eliminated that. I didn't have the money to go to school to become an airline pilot. We were poor growing up. We're an immigrant family. Love my mom and dad. My dad has since passed away, but he was my idol, my mentor, my superhero, and we're still a close knit family. Uh, Train engineer, yeah, I couldn't do it now. Not the hours, not working the boards, not being home every night. I could have done it back then, definitely, because when I started, I was working so much overtime that I was rarely home. And but the opportunity never came. Once I was a bus operator, I got into my buses. I always loved transit growing up. Even back in Cuba, I remember the Leylands and the GM buses and all that. And it wasn't. I applied for police officer, but when they first contacted me, I didn't respond. I was having too much fun driving a bus. All those days, and we're gonna get into it in another episode. Some of those days was wow. It was uh, it was a little too much, and so let's talk about my first job, the airline catering. And we catered our kitchen or our shop. We would never, as a truck driver or food equipment handler, they used to call us. We would never touch food. The food is already sealed. Uh, it was just to deliver the boxes or the carts to the containers or the carts to that different type of airplanes. Depends what they take, and and the liquor kits and sodas and all that. But we never touch the food. The food is always mostly pre-cooked. All I had to do is, heat it up in the ovens and stuff like that. For those of you who are aviation geeks, in my kitchen, Marriott 361, shop number 361. We had 361. We did 99.9% Eastern Airlines. We occasionally did Aero Peru, and well, Aero Peru was like a 4 or 5 times a week flight, and British Caledonian Airlines, a charter, they used to come in on Sundays, and they had a crew to handle that. I never, only once was I been in that airplane. It was an L-1011 500, the shorty version of the L-1011, the long range version. But at Eastern, we had DC-930s, the baby DC-9, DC-910s, which were a pain to cater because of the little small door. The DC-30s had only one galley. The door was a little bigger. It was okay. It was one of the favorite planes. The DC-9, we called the stretch. I think it's called DC-9-51. They would come into Miami occasionally. They were mostly based out of Atlanta. Those were a pain in the butt too. They had a small door, and you had to cater the rear galley through the stairs. It was slippery. You could fall. No room. I mean, I flew on them, and I loved flying in them because I like old planes and stuff like that. But as a caterer, they were a pain in the butt. We also had the going up the line, the Boeing 727s. We had the 727-100 series for Eastern. They were my favorite aircraft. Plenty of room. One galley right in the center of the plane. You can use a short catering truck. You can use one of the long trucks. Doesn't matter. You didn't have to wait for one or the other. I loved them. They still had quite a few when I was there, and I got my share of them. We have more popular than them though were the 727 stretch or the 727-200. In Eastern's case, it was a 225, and they were. Here's my cat. They were pretty good. You had to use a short truck, and you had two galleys, but they had plenty of room. Boeing planes always been like that, plenty of room in the galley and easy in, easy out. You had that maneuver for the rear galley where you had to steer close to the wing and cut over, and as long as you had a truck with power steering, you're all right. But if you were stuck one of the older trucks, you had to turn that thing without moving. You were already drenched in sweat by the time um, you got set to cater the rear galley. We had it was a two-man crew for each truck. You had a helper, and you had the driver, the FEH, and I was only a helper for like 3 months, and at 18 years old, I was promoted to a driver, and the company liked me. Like I was responsible. I kept, getting compliments, and it was a just good time there. Then we had the wide bodies. The wide bodies were the first of all the Airbus A300s. They had two galleys, front and back. They were a lot of work, but they were roomy kitchens. The rear galley, you had once you lifted that truck up, it was to its max. So if you were afraid of heights, don't look down, baby, because you were up there. Um, Usually in the catering process, on the narrow bodies, the FPH will be inside the plane, um, receiving the containers and putting them in order, and the helper will do the grunt work, which meant bringing everything from the truck and pushing it back. On the white bodies, both of us took our turns in and out. It wasn't like an equal thing. Well, we got a thunderstorm rolling in. I just heard some thunder, and yeah, wow, it looks pretty cloudy. Um, we had the L1011s. The L1011s were something else. The galley was on the belly of the plane near the front. You had two one-person elevators which you control by switches to go up to the top. The Eastern L1011s would never have to go to the main deck, but there had to be a certain when you had a plane come in, like you had a New York flight come in, and they had a maximum of what I forgot it was like 30 uh, carts and another 7 or 6 beverage or liquor carts. They had to be a specific method of decatering and catering the plane. It took almost an hour. You couldn't stop. You couldn't delay the plane. Uh, it took a lot of skills. I was trained by some very good professionals, and I kind of excelled in the L1011s too, the way in and out. I can make a video one time of a funny story at the airport. Like we'll leave that for another time. Most of the video is going to be about my transit life. But anyway, that's all for the airplanes. I never catered, decatered a DC-10 or a 747 or a back 111, even a 737. Air Florida had them. And, I forgot what kitchen used to do Air Florida. Because I remember we had 360, Shop 360 was in the airport grounds itself, and they were mostly Pan American. Um, we had ours as 362 Eastern, 361. I meant 362 was nearby, and they had National, I think, at one time, and I forgot who else. They catered, but they were pretty busy. Maybe international flights or something. Braniff, maybe. We had across from 361 and slightly to the west, we had Shop 366, which again, I forgot who they catered, um, but they were pretty busy too. I think them along with Dobbs Catering used to do Delta Airlines. I hear thunder again. Excuse me. And and 364 was a small shop in the airport property too. That's not there anymore. And they would do mostly international carriers that had infrequent flights. I always wanted to work out of there because they had such a variety. I used to see those guys doing DC-10s and special charters and stuff like that. It was a small shop, but they had a lot of variety. And anyway, I was almost at my 2 year anniversary. They were training me to be a manager or showing me the ropes to be a manager when uh, back then was Metro Dade Transit Agency called me, and the starting wage was $9.19 an hour. Then I was making $5.40 at Marriott, and my boss Dave Campbell, um, one of the plant managers, he was kind of disappointed that I was leaving, and he says, "How about it? We sweeten the pot a little bit. How much you gonna be making at Metro?" I said, $9.19 an hour. And he reached out his hand, shook my hand, says, "Good luck, kid." And that's how I gave my 2 weeks notice and went over to training at Miami-Dade Transit. That'll be for another video. I'm trying to keep this video a little short. And my dad applied for Marriott, and he worked there for over 10 years until LSG Lufthansa Sky Chef, they took over the Marriott shops. And Sky Chefs was right behind Marriott. They were so small, they would only do, I think, United. And United didn't have, at that time, that many flights into Miami. Uh, they had a couple of other competing shops. They had Jerry's Catering, and our largest competitor was Airline Catering, which had the raggedy trucks. They mostly had Latin American flights. But anyway, enough for this video. I'll try it out. If you like my rants, I'll try to share some interesting experience with y'all. You know, like and subscribe, like they say. And I'll see you the next time. Thank you, folks. Thank you. How do you shut this off? I just got this Mac.